Rabbit and Jemima Puddle Duck, and a whole menagerie of amiable animal characters that have fascinated 4 generations of children since they first appeared over 80 years ago. I suppose that if before this series was shown we'd taken a quick galloping poll of our viewers and said, who is Beatrix Potter? Most would have guessed what I guessed. A large, cozy, saccharine Victorian matron surrounded by a bevy of bouncing children. But then I suspect that most of us are the prisoners of a very simple preconception about Victorian women authors. Take Emma Lazarus, who wrote those thundering verses inscribed on the Statue of Liberty. Emma Lazarus sounds like a brave immigrant woman who had one lyrical outburst. In fact, she was a wealthy scholar, linguist, translated Heine, novelist, playwright, much admired by Emerson and Turgenev. And the British had their Victorian surprises too. I've always thought of Beatrix Potter as a sort of spiritual twin of Mrs. Beeton. You remember Mrs. Bridges' Bible was Mrs. Beeton's classic English cookbook. Everything from bringing up children to slicing a quail, preparing 7-course dinner for 18 persons, 3,000 recipes, 1,100 pages in tiny Victorian type. Well, I discovered that the formidable Mrs. Beeton was a slim bride of 21, spent the next 6 years raising 3 children and writing her book, and then died in childbirth at 28. As for Beatrix Potter, I'm surprised that she appealed to John Hawkesworth, who wrote and produced this series. He, the dramatic writer and producer of Upstairs, Downstairs, Duchess of Duke Street, the African epic, The Flame Trees of Thika. But then considered as a British television producer, Hawkesworth himself is something of a surprise. Officer in the crack Grenadier Guards, master of foxhounds, student under Picasso, and himself a splendid watercolorist. In fact, it was the delicacy of Beatrix Potter's illustrations that first attracted him to her and led him into a fascination with the life of this willful, independent woman, born into a family rigid even by Victorian standards. Father a trial lawyer, never practiced since he inherited one cotton fortune and his wife another. They had 2 children, Bertram a son, and Beatrix, born in London, 1866. This is her story.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Beatrix Potter, who lived with her mother and her father and her brother Bertram at number 2 Bolton Gardens in Kensington in London. Every morning, their nanny took the children for a walk in the park. At 10 o'clock precisely, Mr. Rupert Potter went off to look at art galleries and take luncheon at his club. Mr. Potter was so rich that he didn't have to do any work. At 1 o'clock, Elizabeth, the parlour maid, climbed the 49 back stairs from the kitchen to the 3rd floor with nursery lunch, cutlets and rice pudding, every day. At 15 minutes past 2, Mrs. Potter went out in the family carriage to make calls and leave cards. At 6 o'clock, Mr. Cox, the butler, and the under-parlour maid began to lay the table for dinner. 6:30, nursery supper time. 7:30, nursery lights out.
Yeoman farmers and weavers for generations from Lancashire. obstinate, hard-headed, matter-of-fact folk. Crumptons.
I'm not a Crumpton, Grandmama. I'm a Potter.
You're both, child. I'm a Crumpton, and I'm your grandmother.
Thank you, Grandmama.
Potters and Crumptons, they're the same mould. Now, you come out of there, young lady. You're getting too big for it. Now, sit up straight. Nobody will marry a hunchback.
Did many people want to marry you, Grandmama?
Oh, flocks of them. I was the toast of Lancaster. My father had to fight them off. One young man wrote me a poem. And then he drowned himself.
Drowned himself? What for?
For love. Though there were those that said he slipped into our pond when he'd had too much wine. There was one man, quite a common man, started making sheep's eyes at me in chapel. My mother had the footman put him under the pump. But I chose right. That grandfather was the best of the bunch. Lost a fortune in the calico printing trade, and then made it back again. That's him, up there. There's a look of him in your father, and in you.
His father doesn't print calico.
No, more's the pity. Trouble with North Country people, they make some money, they come down south, and then they go soft.
But Papa's a really good photographer. Mr. Millet says the professionals can't hold a candle to him.
He's right. He'd be a good painter if he wanted to, like you're going to be. Oh, that's very good.
It's for you, Grandmama.
Then you must sign it. When I grow old and you're famous, I can sell it. But don't you go giving everything away, little Beatrix. And whatever happens, you work hard. It's the only way to win in life. And always remember, you're a Crumpton.
Every summer, the Potters would take a country place for the holidays, as Mr. Potter enjoyed a bit of shooting and fishing, and Mrs. Potter was fond of sketching in watercolors. So, the children were left to explore the beauty of the Lake District, either alone or with their friend, Canon Rawnsley of Ray.
Doctor, Fox cub must have wandered away from its earth. Right now.
Oh, isn't it sweet? I've never seen one before.
Oh, you wouldn't living in London. Plenty of good animals and birds here. Flowers, beetles, all sorts of splendid things. Loveliest place in the whole country. Yes, and we've got to keep it that way.
To both children, suddenly away beyond the London streets, the sights and smells of the country came as a pure revelation of what was real.
You must. Come here. Bee, look at these. What do you think they're here for? Father must have put them up for warning for the other birds. Shall we take one home? Yeah. Oh. How do you see inside it? The bones and everything. Well, skin it, of course. And then what? Boil it. Like Cook does when she makes soup. Birds, rabbits, Bertie, he's got your cap. Look at your face. Oh, you lucky pup. Come here.
Bertram, that is quite enough.
Tiresome boy.
Back in London, Beatrix and Bertram busied themselves with their collections.
You've got to come back to front, you silly thing.
When Bertram eventually went off to school, a governess was engaged for Beatrix.
Du grans nicht nur der Sommerzeit. Nein, auch im Winter, wenn es schneit. O Tannenbaum, wie treu sind deine Blätter.
Good. I just don't know how you remember it so quickly, Miss Beatrix.
Well, I seem to have a sort of knack.
Can you translate?
Well, oh Christmas tree, your leaves are as beautiful in the winter as the summer. It was Prince Albert who brought us the Christmas tree from Germany.
Yes.
Oh Christmas tree, how true your leaves forever are. Poor little monkey. What is that rabbit, please?
One of tuppence to you, miss?
Rather a lot, isn't it?
It's a very special rabbit.
Oh, look at those sweet little mice.
I'll tell you what, throw one in, another fourpence.
Make it one of threepence and I'll take them both.
One of fivepence.
One and fourpence.
Done.
A good outing, Miss Beatrix?
Thank you, Mr.